Welcome back, everybody, to the same studio you're in for the last video. Last video, we had a good general overview of the battery market, all these lithiums coming in from China, what it means to utilize them here and to support them, and we picked Sam's brain. And I think now is a good time for us to talk about Pylontech's position here in this marketplace. So we're going to be putting Sam in the hot seat. Before we do that, I think Aaron had some good thoughts from his experience base to start this conversation out. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, it's always interesting when things don't make a lot of logical sense. And so you try to figure out, how do people buy lithium batteries? Like what is the process? Because at the end of the day, you have end users that are actually using the product. But before that, you have, installers that have to choose, which batteries they want to use, maybe distributors that are going to, ride a horse for a while. It's a very dynamic market, in the sense that there's always a new battery brand that's popping up and attempting to grab market share. And so I think it's really kind of interesting the way that people decide what to buy. And a lot of times from our perspective, which is judgy, it doesn't make a lot of sense, what they choose. I mean, it's kind of like when you buy wine at the wine store and you're looking at the labels, like there's not a lot, that you're learning about, like the taste of the wine by the label.
I don't know what I'm looking at. Like maybe the label's shiny. Maybe I'm feeling a little depressing, so I'm going to go for this bottle over that one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, a good start is making sure it's not in a cardboard box, but maybe I'm a snob. I don't know.
You are.
You are a snob.
Yeah.
Here we like our cardboard Boda boxes. How dare you?
Yeah, nothing's better than that. But anyhow, the process is interesting, and I wrote down some of the reasons why, potentially, people buy products, and one of them is really just about availability in their market. And so when you get to the installer, like they want something that they can go and pick up. They don't want to stock anything. They want easy availability. They want, shipping capabilities. It's about availability because, this guy just popped up on the radar and he needs an install, and I'm going to go get what I need and go get it done. And so that availability a lot of times trumps everything else.
Yeah, I would say that definitely is the case in the residential market, which is, I've worked with you guys for a few months. That's your primary space at the moment, although we're going to talk about growing that and working in the C&I market. So this is a good opportunity to discuss all those markets a little bit, to one, kind of give us a primer for the next video, and also just help educate you and all of our viewers on this. So residential market, availability is going to typically be a big thing, right? So warehousing and logistics is, for any business owner, one of the key expenses it's one of your big overheads, right? After employee wages, that's like the thing is warehousing space, because it's expensive, especially with lithium batteries where you have to condition that space within certain levels, right? So one of the things we're doing as we're filming this video, we're in a 90-day tariff pause that hopefully is extended much beyond that. We're bringing in a lot more inventory than we normally would. Part of that is to help support our customers like you and make sure that you have what you need, not just for the next 3 months, but for the next year, right? The batteries are capable of being stored for that long safely, so we're going to do it to make sure we have what we need for you guys. Transitioning over to the C&I space, availability is a little bit of an issue because it's all custom, right? You're not going to see an off-the-shelf solution when you start getting over 100 kilowatt hours. Maybe off-the-shelf is there, but at the module level, you have customization with regards to the number of battery modules, the corrosion resistance ratings. If I put something in the Bahamas, it's very different than if I put it in central Iowa. And it's difficult to build a C&I solution that works in all of that without having to go through and change coatings, which is something I'm not going to do without a manufacturing facility. So that's where that availability gets a little tricky. Utility scale, a little different again. You're typically using the same modules, your M1Cs and your different module types. But again, it's all based off of customization. Lead time on that sort of stuff is typically 12 to 14 weeks in normal conditions and time. Makes it pretty easy to deal with. Residential product can be quicker than that, as long as there's nothing weird going on with the global supply chain, which, if the last 5 years have taught us anything, is you can wake up one day and it's totally different. So trying to kind of manage that while also keeping a business functioning properly is, of course, a challenge that we're here to face. But the moral of this whole conversation is Pylon is here in the U.S. to stay. Right? That was we were in the heat of the high 145+% tariffs while I was in China, and I was sitting there going, I wonder what my conversation with the vice president's really going to be like this. Am I going to find out that I get on a plane and come back and there's no Pylontech US and Sam's looking for a job with Aaron at Intelligent Controls? And that wasn't the case, right? Jeffrey expressly told me, we're good. We're not worried about it. We're a long-term business. That is one of those things I kind of respected regarding Chinese culture, which was, they're a long-time culture. They think in thousands of years. A 4-year term of any sort of problems with anything import-wise is not a problem for them. They're here to be a leader in the market and to produce quality products and to support our customers here in the U.S.
Yeah, and so I think, if I could summarize that a little bit, it's availability not only now, but in the future, and then availability for long-term service. What I think my kind of initial thought is just how it's sort of backwards. Like we are like quality and the BMS and think about the cells and that's kind of where our heart's at, because we think that creates like the best, most reliable long-term result. But customers buy based on relationships, on availability and quality and all the other stuff that really do matter. A lot of times they're like third. And that's because of the way a lot of these products are distributed, where, all of a sudden these are the hot ticket and they brought in 5 containers of these and they're going to discount them at this level. And, they're available at your local, electrical supply shop.
Yeah, the pricing thing is definitely something to look at. And as we covered in the last video, Pylon is never going to be the bottom of the barrel price battery. We're just not. That's not the way we want to do business. A lot of Chinese businesses do it that way. We're not that way. We're a quality first. We'll work with you on price, on volume, and to help our customer base grow and to build our business here in the U.S. And long term, some of you big guys that are probably having reps watch this, we're coming for some of your market share. So be ready for that one. I've got a good crew here with Intelligent Controls to help us do it. So
that was something that Aaron and I started talking about on like that initial phone call. We were sitting there at ISC West actually when all the tariffs went through, and so
yeah, we were all there.
Yeah. No, it was we had that conversation in the hot tub, I think, at the Airbnb.
Yeah,
but
that's what happened.
Man, yeah, this is crazy. There's a lot of stuff going on in the market, but what an opportunity for Pylontech and companies like them, because like that's something that we've had is I don't think Aaron and I really particularly like it when we get offered really cheap batteries. And you sell some batteries and it's the same thing on LinkedIn, or you have honestly you have a WhatsApp number and you get spammed with, we got really cheap batteries, and then you look online and you see how thin that margin is and how they're really just going for that low cost model. And then that's getting disrupted now.
They're bypassing the other things that are important, like availability and the relationship. And the relationship doesn't happen real quick. I've got companies, that I've been talking to for, 5 years, and they kind of have to churn through the other guys. Basically, the unfortunate thing is a lot of people need to experience pain, and it's like, I wish they didn't have to, but they kind of have to in order to appreciate the other options.
Yeah. And
like Pylontech.
Going in, kind of shifting away from batteries into the inverter space, because I experienced this. You probably did too during the same time, right? 2020, you started to see weaknesses in any inverter manufacturer at that time. That was really, the lithium boom was starting at that time. And, you'd find inverter manufacturers that for a long time, they were really good. And then they're trying to source material because of supply chain issues, that they're not vertically integrated. And then all of a sudden you get a fault code that shows up. And
backup chip or a cap or something.
And this was, I will skip the brand for liability reasons, but it was a major brand, right? And one of the big ones that's been in the industry a long time. And this installation was at my employer there's home. It was their own off-grid home. And I've sold hundreds of these at that time, and, helped them install it, and have the same brand of equipment in my own home at that time. And issue pops up, brand new installation. And I had seen this issue with a couple of customer installs and couldn't quite figure out what was causing it. And it was because at that time, warranty on the inverter was always going through.
Was it the transfer switch?
It was actually a relay on the board.
Okay.
It was a relay issue, but the fault, for those of you that remember it, was a loose DC negative. There was no loose cable anywhere. It was a bad relay in the system.
Yeah.
It occurred during charging cycles. So your idea on the relay was very close, because there was a relay that would within that on the charging side, and it would just randomly pop up.
Makes you want to shop for a different inverter choice.
Yeah, and it actually did.
Yeah.
They replaced their inverters, and that company no longer has market share, right? I mean, it's that easy if you're not paying attention as an OEM, right? And that's a lesson to take away with this, with regards to our target and how Pylon wants to do this, is we are not going to sacrifice who we are as a company and our founding principles in order to get more market share. We're not going to make something cheaper just to get in the door. That's not. We want slow, steady growth to a consistent market share with a quality product and relationships that will last. And we're not looking to have the entire U.S. market. That's not going to happen, right? But the goal is to be there for those people that value quality first, right? And the cost of ownership versus the purchase price is a big deal, right? We talk about price and quality. The cost of ownership on a quality component is usually lower when you average it out, and that's the thing to remember. Sorry, I kind of rambled there, but that's the.
No, I think it's all like I think for a lot of people, it just turns into a blur, and then they just look at the price, and then they look at, somebody's installing it for them, so they don't have any control over it, and I think on the residential side. On the commercial side, that idea that Pylontech is big enough to be bankable.
Yes.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, bankability reports are something you'll be seeing coming out, right? And again, this is in the U.S. We want bankability reports. That's something that one of my previous employers, Trina, was fantastic at, is bankability reports. You'll be seeing those coming out this year, because that's something that the domestication of marketing and support structure in the U.S. is growing. We've been in the country now a couple of years and are consistently growing our team. Every few months, we're adding some more help where it's needed. And that bankability report and the ability to see that, we've got the financials, we're a profitable company globally, all those things allow us to be a key partner that you can trust long term. And remembering that, as we grow in the U.S. and a few years from now, when this video is buried in the backlogs of whatever video streaming service it's on, you'll be able to see the progression of the company. It's been around over a decade and will continue to do that. So
And that'll be, just selfishly speaking, as a guy that sells these and that likes to do larger stuff if possible. To me, for anything falling in that larger scale, low voltage range, that light commercial market, I really think that Pylontech is the easiest solution there. Just from the fact that, what we talked about in the previous video, the vertically integrated manufacturing, the quality of the stuff, the failure rates and whatnot. But having all those other elements, those bankability reports, the in-country presence, the marketing and whatnot, is what makes that sale a lot easier and prevents customers that are playing with they're playing at a scale where it's really bad to have to suffer, as Aaron was saying. When you're suffering at the scale of, big UPS systems, that's different from having 3 or 4 batteries in your home.
Yeah,
he missed out on the days of the L16s wired series parallel and having to add water and the rotten egg smell. He really missed it. I think we need to haze him a little bit. I think maybe you need to sponsor
L16s in the basement where you got to drop them down with a rope to your buddy.
Let's sponsor a battery bank for his yurt, but it needs to be like L16s, and let's make sure one of them's a little older.
Forklift batteries.
Yeah,
gonna make me carry them as well.
Yeah, with a 2-wheeler.
I've done that a couple of times, been the battery boy. But so if we can get ourselves into the position where customers, especially at the larger scales, can just go straight with Pylontech versus messing around with the other options that are, better known, better marketed, that will be huge.
A lot of our customers, I think, and we see this more and more, like the systems keep getting bigger. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of the things that I think is always interesting is you've got a customer, you've worked with them for a long time. They have an opportunity to do a really big job. Mm-hmm. It's just, all of a sudden it's twice as big as anything they've ever done before, maybe more, and their confidence to attack that and actually do it could be high, could be really low. if they're smart, they're going to be kind of worried, because those are the kind of jobs that take you out or that lose you, a couple $100,000 in the paperwork side. So, those bigger jobs and having the confidence to go after those is probably something that, we really like the idea that we can kind of tee that up for our customers.
Yeah, and I think that actually, not to steal your thunder as moderator, but that puts us in a good position for that discussion, right? So one of the nice things, if you're used to working with Pylon protocol, it's the same as you scale. You're dealing with different components, but it's the same basic premise. And as you said, these types of jobs can make or break a company. Having worked for small businesses most of my professional career, whether that was in sales or manufacturing or anything else, those are also the ones that can allow you to go from a little bitty, 5-man show to employing 40 or 100 people.
Right.
If you do it right and everything goes smoothly. So having that partnership there and that opportunity to really transition over into that space in an effective manner is something that we can help with. So if we want to dive right into that subject, I'm happy to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah, take it away. Let's go.
Yep. So as we get beyond, and you can scale.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think I think it's kind of fun, because in our world, in our small, let's say off-grid world, where I don't know what's an average system for kilowatts for smaller off-grid stuff.
Between 20 and 40.
I don't know. There's some risk, and there's a lot of players in the market. On the really big commercial level, the expectations are so different.
Yeah, you go from I need a residential electrician to I need to know if I'm working in an area where I have to deal with prevailing wage. I need to have ESG reports for the company. I need country of origin documentation. I need, I have an approval verification process with the utility in some cases. So there's all sorts of different things there. And then also the way money flows, sometimes you're going to be installing it and waiting. So you've got to have partners that are willing to go through different insurances and give you credit, which
different
is something
bonding and everything.
Yeah, you've got all sorts of different things that can change that situation.
And even just on the battery side, though, I think there's not. I mean, all of a sudden, the number of players, shrinks.
It does
pretty dramatically, and new players come out that don't even play.
Yep.
In this market, and they only focus on the big stuff.
Yeah, and big is relative. To some companies, big is over 100 megawatts, and some of them big is over 500 kilowatt hours. From my perspective, and maybe this is a bias I have starting in residential, same as you, 20, 40, 60 kilowatt hour, you get above 100 kilowatt hours, and that's not to say that you can't go bigger, right? US 5,000, roughly half a meg of capacity is capable of doing that. Those are really common installations in Mexico, right? Because it's something that they're familiar with working with the individual component set. But you're reaching the limit of what those types of systems are capable of, and especially here in the U.S., when we start talking big projects, we're talking price sensitivity of, a couple points can make or break your bidding process in this. So if you were to try to do these big systems with a US 5000 series versus going to even an A100 cabinet, right, which is now it's still a 1C rated battery. It's a 10 in series, so 32 volt battery system stacked in series inside the cabinet, and then much larger 3-phase inverters. Your cost per kilowatt hour plummets, right? Even at that scale, your cost per kilowatt hour is dropped by 25 or 30%. You get into the megawatt scale, like your A2000, like we're talking about a container-based project for you guys. Hopefully we can make that one happen. Your cost per kilowatt hour is less than half. So it makes it much easier to pencil out when you're trying to work with these people. And at the same time, right, working in these larger areas, you can take your margin as a business and say, well, I don't have to make 15, 20, 30, 35 points on a project. Now I can go down and be in that 5, 10 range and be okay to make it work. And I can pass those savings on to my customer. So there's ways that you can work within that. And it's a lot easier at matters of scale to get better pricing from OEMs, right? You can get more customization as well. The way I like to put it when I'm walking around RE Plus is we're an OEM and we can make it pink with polka dots if that's what you want, right? Because you're talking container level batteries, right. And now we can do things differently. So
Pylontech, the way I see it, is kind of in a unique position, bridging all the way from 100 amp hour 12 volts up to those big utility scale high voltage.
And the super kind of interesting, consumer industrial market where it's it's not so big. Like the big guys can't pay attention to it because they, they're chasing utility projects. Yeah, all they care about is giant elephants, and the little guys are scared of it.
Yeah.
And so those systems are super interesting to me, just because, as you do more and more systems, like, all of a sudden these guys get it's a lodge, it's a bigger, bigger, small,
Yeah, you need a half a meg of 480 capability, and
right.
that's something that's a unique space for us.
And being able to like aggressively kind of go after that without like putting everything on the line, from a design standpoint, know that it's going to work. I spent a bunch of time with a guy recently who, it just almost takes these companies out like regularly, when they bite these off, they think, oh yeah, I'll do that. They get, they're aggressive, and then it can come back to bite them. So doing that really right is
and that's
easier
something
said than done.
That's something that having our local support helps with too, right? You had mentioned EHAB in the last video. We can reach out to EHAB and get a technical proposal turned around in a week or two at current volume levels. So 2 years from now, when you guys are so busy that it takes 3 or 4 weeks, go ahead and everybody watching, just remember that this was filmed in spring of 2025. So, with that though, the technical proposal, pretty straightforward. We've got as I would call it, more than just a back of the napkin type design at that point, right? If we know the parameters going in, and you guys have done your homework with your end user or the EPC that you're working with, now we're in a situation to where we can actually have a rough design and be budgetary quoting in a way that matters, where we're not going to be way outside a spec when we get down the line on these projects 6 months from now when we're finally ready. And in my experience, these bigger projects, having worked in the C&I space, it's a 12 to 18 month sales cycle from the first time someone brings a piece of paper in and says, hey, can I do this? Until you're finally finishing putting stuff in the ground, or maybe even getting a pad poured for these container and cabinet level solutions. Like, it's a long process, and there's multiple rounds of bidding, and you have to be able to prove out that the product's going to last,
right? And
that it's going to be a solution that will work for them.
So would you say that then you guys, covering that range from small 100 amp hour 12 volts to large utility scale stuff within that middle section right there that we just spoke about, are you guys prepared to support all of those sections of the markets?
Oh, absolutely. So our production capacity as it stands right now is around 16 gigawatts of production capacity. We are number 4 or 5 as far as cell manufacturing capability. Of that, at any given time, I can have at least half of it available for production, right? So I'm not running my machines at full speed. I can manage to get that going for a couple quarters in a row. Pylon has the capital to build another facility if that's what's needed. So we can definitely support that market here in the United States and even globally, where we have a very strong presence. So a good way to look at Pylon is we're the smallest of the big guys, right? So we're not, and this is something that a lot of companies, especially coming from China, like to push how big they are and how much they've got this. And in America, we all think, okay, you're big, so what? Right? Well, it really comes down to how you listen to us. We were talking about service and what matters. And so that being the smallest of the big guys for you and Aaron really means that you're in a position where if you need that leverage of a big company, you've got it, but we're still able to provide a little bit better service to you, and therefore your customers are able to expect it.
Yeah, because that's what the section of that market that's really interesting there, right? Like the largest stuff, having the capacity to build things, that's important. On the smaller stuff, as we've been talking about how you handle your sales channels with your distributors, and making something enough of a walled garden that your distributors are really motivated to handle that customer experience. But that middle section, that mid-sized commercial, having the ability to support the sales channels that are out there, like say, I come to you with a large-ish project, getting the assistance with that is going to be critical moving forward. Is that something that you guys are, with this beachhead here in the United States, that you're looking to tackle?
That's really it. So, coming originally from the residential space and then my time spent in C&I and small scale utility, that's my focus, is that type of market, right? So I've worked with EPCs and project developers in that space, have some of those relationships in my previous sales territory. I want to help you guys up here with that same thing. So it's something that I've done systems like this before from start to finish, and I can essentially hold your hand through it, right? I mean, the best way I can put it is that I can walk you through this and make sure that you don't fall over the stumbling blocks that I've seen people trip over and crash their business.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, do you have any other questions for Sam, Aaron, here on this topic segment?
No, I specifically really like the idea that companies are able to grow and grow with confidence with a battery company that can scale. So like just to summarize is like there's a lot of batteries out there. A lot of them, kind of cap out at a pretty small size.
Yeah.
And also, if you go much more than a couple batteries, you're really risking a lot in terms of the battery balancing and the issues that you're going to run into. So the fact that Pylontech is reliable on the small systems and does really good there, but part of the reason why it's we like it is because it allows us to scale with the similar technology and the similar kind of relationships. Because at the end of the day, that's ultimately what allows you to be successful. Is you have a question and you have confidence that you're going to be able to accomplish, what you said you're going to do. And I love the idea that a small installer, can build his business around these batteries, and then continue to kind of take on bigger and bigger jobs, and build their confidence with just a solid battery company behind them.
That's a function of the quality of the product and then the quality of the support available to them.
Yeah. And that's kind of what we offer, with intelligent controls. That's kind of our goal, is to really have, build that relationship and build that confidence over time, so those companies continue to grow and aren't just limited to, small systems.
Yeah, and that's what every business owner wants, is he wants to grow his business. Along the way, he's going to have some people that come work for him for 5 or 6 years and then branch off and do their own thing. If you did a good job training him, he's someone you can call on when you end up overwhelmed with a project 2 years down the road, because his quality. We're here to do business with each other and grow everyone and help everyone earn more. And that's something that it requires good partners at the supplier level in order to achieve that. So I've seen that several times in my career of places I worked for, and we would continue to grow. Guys would come and go, but then somehow we'd outsource some work to them because we needed it, right? That's the nature of being a good business person and just a good person in general, and having good people work for you that integrate well into your company.
One of the problems though, Sam, is that with Pylontech, you don't have any big issues, and as you know, like one of the best way to build relationships is to have big issues.
Yeah, and the good thing about that is that everyone is going to have ebbs and flows in terms of their relationship
Trauma
with
bonding.
vendors. Yeah, the trauma bonding is real, right? But the good thing with that is that you can, if someone, let's say someone does, okay, they grow with us for a couple of years, and then for whatever reason they decide on a random Tuesday they're going to work with someone else.
They boomerang.
Yeah, they will come back because and
that's like, wow, that wasn't so great.
That has been my experience in sales forever. Has been, if I just treat everyone the right way, they may grow past me, but odds are that something will come back. And that has been my methodology in sales, as you've seen, right? Is that my role here, the way I see it, is I'm just a problem solver. Whatever that problem is, I fix it. If that means I send you to a competitor for a component I don't have and risk the fact that you're going to do business with them, that's just part of it. But you have to have that confidence that you're getting good advice. And we were talking about Mike's car yesterday about a little issue. And he asked me my opinion of someone he had getting parts for him. And I said, he's a good guy because he gave you advice that was counterproductive to his business. Yeah. And that's just what you have to. Gave me an option
that wasn't him.
Yeah. And
that says something.
Yeah. When they do that, that's how you've got somebody that's worthwhile.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the element that's really been missing from the battery market, is the relationship, the trust, and the ability to scale those relationships.
That's more than just a commodity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the term you're going to hear a lot at RE Plus this year, and I heard it at RE Plus Texas a few weeks ago, was, hey, batteries are becoming a commodity. And you can say that, but the same thing they say about solar modules, that they're a commodity. And then 5 years from now, who's honoring your warranty when this one little company that started a facility opens up and then closes?
Yeah, commodities are defined as, I think in most cases, like just, it gets eaten.
Yeah.
Or it gets used, or it's gone, in a certain amount of time. And, it's commodities aren't things that, stick around forever, that you expect to be around, especially things with electronics in them.
Complexity.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap that up here. And then for the next video, I would like to dive pretty deeply into some of your knowledge onto the intricacies of cell chemistry and the production process, and really the balancing process, and whether it's series or parallel.
Yeah, I can nerd out on that one with the best
So
of them.
Please join us on the next video for that. For now, thank you, Sam. Thank you, Aaron. And we'll see everybody later.
Thanks, guys.